Right?
Okay. Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Theo. Just call me Theo, the short form. I've been in emergency response since I was 18 years old. Now I'm 62. Right? So basically, I was from civil defense, and then I went into oil and gas. Right? So that is the part of my story, and of course, I have certification from US, UK, and majority is from Malaysia. Alright. So before we begin, I also need to know something about you. Right? Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm the operations coordinator for the Sangomar project. So we are doing now in Singapore, and then I will be deployed to Senegal second semester this year. And what I'm doing is basically from offshore operations. I graduated in mechanical engineering in 2008, and been working in the offshore industry since then. And started as a production trainee, and then went the ranks to OIM, and now in this project operations coordinator. So basically onshore this time.
All the while offshore.
Yeah.
Alright, that's good.
Yeah, myself, my name is José Carlos. I'm 50 years old. I have over 35 years of experience, but 10 years in industry, like such as Michelin, French company, and 25 years offshore, oil and gas industry, offshore and offshore. I started my career as an apprentice of maintenance, electrical technician. I also offshore, I achieved the OIM position, offshore installation manager. Now I'm pre-operation manager, Sangomar project, same project. Before Sangomar, I was operation manager. We are Brazilian, in Shell contract as operation manager as well. We have some experience in offshore.
So you are just now speaking in
Portuguese.
Portuguese.
Yes, we speak Portuguese. Yeah.
Alright. So basically, what we are talking for this 3 days will be on oil spill emergency response. So I'm sure you have seen some oil spill with your experience that share, right? So I think this is more on what should I say, revision for you, alright, rather than what you call learning the whole process again. But please be free to stop me at any time if you feel that you can contribute. We are all still learning, right? We are all still learning. But of course, the learning process these 3 days is not going to be typically I'm sitting here and you are listening to me. We are going to interact with each other, alright? And the next thing is we want to have some fun, alright? We are not going to school, we are not in primary school or elementary school, so we want to have some fun, alright? So basically, what you understand, have you all heard about Incident Command System, ICS? Right? So what we are trying to do is to revert back to ICS 200. You may even be more advanced. Some people have gone to 400, right? So why we are looking at ICS 200 is because these are the basic requirements that you really need. You don't have to go into 400 or 5 or 600 or that. It's not required, right? So what we call why the ICS 200 is because it is almost in line with what we call our oil spill response protocol. So that's why we're using this quite often. At the same time, later I will also show you the forms that we have used before, and then there's some sample of ERL, what you call these companies that having all these forms. So we want to be familiar with these forms as well, right? So we are looking at the video of what is incident command system. So this video is basically it is not an oil spill, but the essence of emergency response is still the same. So we are looking at the essence of how, when we have ICS method, how we interact with people, we interact with operation, we interact with logistics, we interact with government department. So these are the things we are looking at.
A look at ICS for local government, public works in action. An emergency can strike at any time and might require public works to collaborate with others on site. Just like fire, police, and ambulance, public works personnel will need to respond in a safe and coordinated manner. To do this effectively, these agencies need to use a consistent approach. The Incident Command System, or ICS, is used to command, control, clearly communicate, and coordinate emergency response. It's used around the world as an effective means for managing single and multi-agency incidents. ICS uses a number of key principles which guide response activities. The following modules highlight a few of these principles, including elements of safety and accountability, the 5 primary management functions, the process for assuming and transferring command, a flexible and expandable organization, and how incident action plans are implemented to provide a common direction. With ICS, any agency can effectively manage incidents and reach beyond the scope of their day-to-day work. ICS Module 1, the initial call-out.
So what we are trying to do here is to refresh you that what we call ICS is not only involves one party, it involves a lot of people, and how are we going to integrate to the system. So the key component we are looking at is what are the purpose of your contingency plan. So I've been doing quite a few training in Malaysia and Indonesia. First thing I ask, have you ever seen your oil spill response manual? Sure. Yeah. So most of them don't even know the response manual exists. So if you do not know your response manual exists, how are you going to respond? That's the issue here, right? Then of course, how is the response protocol being implemented? Who is supposed to call who? And then how do you activate your response? There's a lot of even, should I say, superintendents not realizing that. They say, oh, I just called this guy will arrange everything. Right? But basically, they should know something about what they're supposed to do. And then, of course, the national response, we are looking at the tier series. Alright? So, there's so many formats of the tier response. So I would prefer two and three. So I always use the pyramid. The pyramid shows the tier response is where you have the most control, and on the top tier 3 you have the least control. Right?
The strategy.
Yeah.
The 3 strategy.
Yeah. So as we go along, I will be using this diagram more often. So this is one fire incident happened in MISC ship in Bintulu with Petronas. We have fire and we have oil spill.
It's happened. 2000.
Yeah, about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
So why we use this is when you have a ship fire and you have oil spill. So which one we will handle first? Yes. So because this one I was involved, personally involved. So I managed to get the video from YouTube, looking for it. So you get the whole scenario.
26 July 2012, 2:30 a.m., MISC Bugel was engulfed in flames which was started on board the ship at the jetty of Terminal Petronas Chemicals Methanol, Sendirian Berhard, Pulau Labu. The ship tanker was owned by MISC Berhard, and it was tasked in transporting chemicals and palm oil. The ship was registered in the port of Plum, Selangor. It was raining heavily that day. There were lightning occurring all around the area. However, he might forget something, or ignore the fact that he should bear in mind all the time. The ship was struck by the lightning whilst the ship was loading a 6-ton cargo of methanol at the terminal of Petronas Chemicals Methanol Sendirian Berhard. The lightning struck the ship and caused a fire, and in doing so, caused 3 blasts to happen on the ship and caused the killing of 5 of its 29 crew members. The blasts happening in sequence after one another. According to the report, an employee of the Petronas Chemicals company suffered from an eye injury, but he was referred to an eye specialist and in stable condition. However, imagine if this person was not wearing any protection suit or equipment such as the safety glasses. He might be blind due to this incident. His life will be miserable after that worst injury that could have happened to him. Do you think there's more? Yes. A report by a near building owned by Sabah Electricity Sendirian Berhard, where it is located near to the jetty, is received, which stated that the building was affected by a concussion resulting from the incident. In the report, the building's ceiling, windows, and doors are broken. If this incident occurs during daytime, it could affect the workers who comes to work on that day, as the incident is occurred on Thursday. This could also cause injury or even death to the employee and visitor instead of only the property damage. After the second explosion, the area was evacuated by the authorities, and the nearby fire station and methanol silo was shut down for safety reasons. It was said that the immediate causes of the event is divided into 3. First, actions. A fire which grew into an inferno, which later caused the 3 blasts which destroyed the ship and would have further damaged the surrounding area if the fire was not contained by the authorities. Next, conditions. Heavy rain and thunderstorm in the surrounding area of the incident. A lightning struck the ship which caused the fire. Third, critical factor. If proper SOPs was followed, the incident would never have occurred. Loading 6-ton methanol on board the ship during a thunderstorm was an ill-fated idea which caused the incident to happen. Moreover, as a rule of thumb, no ignition source should be measured while handling the methanol. Underlying causes. According to IEM, it was noted that the 3 possibilities of the incident was caused by either human error, faulty safety systems, or a combination of both. There were no written procedures within the OGI, and the education of the OGI workforce was not adequate. In doing so, unsafe condition was produced which were caused by human error, such as loading a cargo of flammable substance during a thunderstorm, faulty safety systems which did not alert the crew members to the fire, and the safety systems on board the ship was not adequate to stop the fire from spreading into an inferno. Based on this, the employee should have noticed the risk from the thunderstorm. All operations should have been ceased due to the presence of a flammable substance. More modern safety systems should have been installed on the ship to decrease the risk of a fire spreading. The presence of ships anchored nearby would have increased the destruction cost of the accident and would have claimed more lives should the fire have spread further. To further elaborate on the ship's cargo, according to the U.S. Department of Transportation, methanol is a Class 3 flammable liquid with a subsidiary risk as Class 6.1 toxic material. If the fire spreads faster, methanol vapor could be released, which can cause symptoms of acute methanol exposure such as headache, weakness, drowsiness, nausea, difficult breathing, drunkenness, eye irritation, blurred vision, loss of consciousness, and possibly death. This event could have occurred when maintenance works were being performed. There were 3 separate fire accidents, all in Petronas sites, which were connected due to them all happening during maintenance works. However, this empty bunked-out incident is believed to happen due to the thunderstorm that struck the incident place as it is located around water. This incident could happen again if no effective measures are taken to avoid this incident. According to reports from both U.S. Marine insurance claim files, the odds of your boat being struck by lightning in any year are about 1 in 1,000. The overall response by the local authorities were adequate for the situation as soon as the report to the Loon Fire and Rescue Department was made. Imagine if the report was not made, the fire could have spread quickly, more damages, and loss of life could have occurred. The Fire and Rescue Department of the Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency, Marine Police, Marine Department, Royal Malaysian Navy, Malaysian Civil Defense Department, and from the hospital at Nucleus Level were mobilized to deal with this accident. The local fire department took these 3 steps in their efforts to control and put out the fire. First, they used several supply trucks to control and remove the fire completely from this bunked-out beam. Then, once the flames were removed, they pulled down the ship tanker for around 3 days. Finally, they checked and ensured that the ship was completely safe so that they could carry out search and rescue to find the missing crew members. The operations at the Tabata Power Station, which was located next to the terminal, were ceased until the fire was put out to decrease the risk of the fire spreading to the station were halted as it is located next to the terminal to stop the fire from spreading. Gas delivery from Petronas Chemicals methanol to the Tabata Station was halted immediately until the incident was confirmed safe and stable. Booms were also deployed to contain any oil spill from the ship to prevent water pollution and to avoid endangering the aquatic life. Were emergency procedures followed? Yes, it was. Most of the crew members from MT bunked-out and followed the emergency procedure and jumped into the sea to increase their distance from the hazard. Workers from the local methanol silo and power station followed the emergency procedures and ceased their operations to control the fire and prevent it from spreading, which would have caused catastrophic damage to the surrounding area. There are multiple recommendations to avoid catastrophic accidents such as missed bunked-out or the tanker. The recommendations are as follows. To ensure that no such accident can be caused again, there are a few methods that can be done to mitigate the risk of lightning. Which your lightning step meter is allowed to intercept with the tank roof, thus total lightning current will be injected into the metal structure of the tank. The second will be to conduct oil fuel leak inspection, which must be based on Chapter 2 construction fire protection. Fire detection and fire extinction part being prevention of fire and explosive range flow probability of ignition 2.2.5 oil fuel piping. Next is to maintain the pressure of the storage tanks with standardized pressure, which is based on the API standard 2000. Next is to increase the safety of electrical continuity, such as bonding, earthing the electrical system. Static accumulator oils may be electrostatically charged by pipeline flow, which is to prevent any lightning strike from causing serious damage to a ship. There are many laws, acts, and regulations which were involved in this accident. Government agencies such as the Construction Industry Development Board, the Department of Safety and Health, and the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health Malaysia, and many others have implemented various safety policies to strengthen current safety practices. The Occupational Safety and Health Act is an act which aims to secure the safety, health, and welfare of persons at work and protect persons in a place of work. Under Act 514, employers and self-employed have the responsibility to provide a safe workplace. Employers and self-employed must provide their employees with a workplace that does not have serious hazards and must follow all OSHA safety and health standards. As employers, they should always check and improve safety regulations in the workplace. According to the Workers' Social Security Act 1969, medical benefits and compensation should be given to workers who are injured in the workplace. Employers should also provide adequate training to laborers to familiarize themselves with their jobs so that similar accidents can be avoided. If an accident has occurred, the employer should take responsibility for resolving the situation, such as identifying the cause of the accident and cooperating with superiors to rectify the situation. Factories and Machinery Act is an act to provide for the control of factories with respect to matters relating to the safety, health, and welfare of persons therein, the registration and inspection of machinery, and for the matters connected therewith. In this act, factory means any premises or part of a premises where within the close of curtilage or precincts of the premises or part thereof persons are employed in manual labor in any process or connected with or incidental to the making, altering, repairing, ornamenting, sorting, finishing, cleaning, washing, breaking, demolishing, constructing, reconstructing, fitting, refitting, adjusting, or adapting of any article or part thereof.
Okay, basically, when it comes to emergency response, the safety officers play a very important role. Meaning, they have to know the what we call law and regulation guidelines of each individual country, right? So then the next thing is your location situated in between two countries? Then you have the what we call to communicate between government agencies to another government agency. So it is a very complex subject, especially in Malaysia and Singapore.
Yeah, this I would like to mention. Regarding the river, one river split the two countries.
Yeah.
And if you have any incident in this river, you should contact both countries.
Yes, correct. So basically, you should not contact both countries. We are talking about, say, this is Malaysia,
Yeah.
and this is Singapore. We have a lot of oil spill happening in Penang, this area. So whenever it happens, of course, our local government will contact our federal. Our federal will contact Singapore.
See.
Alright, we cannot contact directly.
Correct, yeah.
We cannot contact directly. That is where your PR personnel and some of your emergency response personnel must always be in contact with our local government authorities. Why? It's the same. If I see you today, I can forget you in 2 weeks, 3 weeks time. But if I see you every day, then I'll remember you, right? So that is the whole idea. You don't have to see. I don't have to see you every day. At least 2, 3 weeks once. Give you a call, drop by, hey, have some coffee. Then you build relationship. That's where later we'll be talking about relationship also. So why we are doing this is because this is where Tier 3 comes in. When Tier 3 comes in, if you cannot control this, the company is going to spend a lot of money. A lot of money, and then if it is a new company, they may not even survive. Just from one spill, right? So that is what we are looking at. What is our policy? What is your company policy you are talking about? And then what is the framework of response? That is where your emergency response manual comes in, right? With that emergency response manual, is it sufficient? We are looking at it. Is it sufficient or not? Who is going to tell you this is enough and this is not enough? So what we are looking at is drill. How to drill and to make sure it's sufficient or it's not sufficient. And who are we going to drill with? Some people, they deal with government departments, alright? But be mindful that not all government department personnel are capable of handling such oil spill. So I've been doing emergency response for almost through my life. What you call when I'm from the government, I go into the private sector, I learned a lot of new things. So when I was in the private sector, new government officers come in, I have to teach them what to do, right? So that is where relationship is very important. Then plans and level, that is what we are talking about just now. So this is the local, right? This is district. This can be national or international. So if this is international, this district will go into country. This local can be into your state or zone. If you are on a platform, you go by zone, right? So these are the things you are looking at. So this is tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So basically, these boxes is for me it's a little bit confusing. I rather use that; it's easier to see. I have to put this on is because this is from Germany. Alright. So this is actually the whole framework. The same thing we are looking at is here local capacity, and then we are looking at national capacity, and we are looking at multinational. So basically it's the same here, international, then we have country and we have local zone. Right? So each individual tier, they will have their lead agency. So the lead agency here, if it's within the confine of your space, so the lead agency is your safety department, right? But if it escalates to tier 2, then the lead agency change, right? So here we are looking at your incident commander, company incident commander. So from company incident commander, maybe it flows a little bit bigger, then you have to go into district officer. District officer or state, or you have a state minister, something like that, they will take over as the incident commander. As normally is politician. Normally is politician. So this politician, they may not know anything at all. So what we need to do is how to feed them the correct information. Right? Yeah. Yes. Because otherwise, he open his mouth wrongly, the whole world is going to break. Right? So this is what we are looking at: how to feed information to these people. And then, of course, we want to make sure that the information is accurate, but it will not be blown out of proportion. Right? So the consultation process will be like this. We have a contingency plan, that is before the spill, what we are going to do, what equipment we have, who's going to be leading the spill. You already have a diagram for it. Alright? And then this diagram must be shared with your local authorities. Then the local authorities, especially the environment, they will look into it. So they will ask you, define your tier 1. What is your tier 1? How many barrel or how many kb of spill is tier 1? And beyond that is considered tier 2. So our manual should come up with certain scenario that okay, this is good. Tier 1, what we're going to do, what equipment do we have? Do we have the capability to handle tier 1? So these are all the evidence that we need to prove to the Department of Environment. And then how does it function? After the function, can we test it out? Does it work? What is the response time we are looking at? So, in event of spill, who are we supposed to contact? Like here, we have directory. Who are we supposed to contact? Besides our company personnel, who outside the company personnel we need to contact? And who is supposed to contact these people? It's not just you and me, just cut the phone and say, hey, we have voice wave. No. Designated personnel that will be handling that. Right? So, like just now we are talking about, also here we have already talked about the institutional arrangement of our organization, and then tier response and command post. Here we already talked about it. Assessment of spill. I have experienced before people calling me and say, we have voice spill. It's okay. What product? Don't know.
What time is that?
Do you not know what product you are loading and unloading? That's one thing. How much spill? Don't know. I said, estimate for me. Don't know. Okay, never mind. So we activated tier 2.
Yeah, worst case.
Yeah, worst case we activated tier 2 and I have to drive about 3 hours from my house to the location. By the time we reach there, our drone start flying, survey the whole thing, look back, check all the things. We have a speed of 3 drums. 3 drums, but we activated tier 2. Alright? Basically, you just can get a few people to clean up. So that is very important for supervisory levels to have proper training.
Avoid escalating any everything that can be dealt with.
Yeah, but then also again sometimes we downplay when it's a major issue. We say it's fire, but then it's actually out of control.
Yeah.
So they need to be able to understand when I'm in control and when I'm not in control. That's very crucial. Right? Actually, when you say when this guy start calling, it's a small one, but we think it's a big one. It's still good because when we can save a lot of PR issues, right? But if it's a big one, then it becomes lose control. So that is where the operation procedure will come in. Also in your manual, we are looking at notification again and reporting procedure. Who's supposed to report and how you are supposed to report? What is the initial action we are supposed to take? Right? And then the action on the spill side, what we call spill on water, do we have a shoreline spill? All that need to be considered. And then the most important thing is communication plan. A lot of I have worked a lot in Asia, so I'm looking at what they call Asian scope. When it comes to spill, they sometimes what should I say? They get very emotional with it. So when you get emotional with it, you cannot think properly. But basically, you don't have to get emotional. Say, okay, there is a spill. What's the next step? Right? What are we supposed to do? Look back at our manual. Most of the time, they forget about the manual. So anything, because the operation manual, your emergency response manual is where you already have a lot of risk assessment, and then you will conduct the training based on your manual. If it goes wrong, it will not be that far away, right? So next thing we are talking about is also technical. So technical, the first thing, after the assessment, the surveillance, what we use now, we don't even use airplane nowadays, we use drone. One is faster, two is cheaper.
Yeah,
Right? So it depends on which location you are in. If you are on platform, then I think you still need to use airplane. Alright? It's about 40,000 ringgit per day. Alright? So if you are using drone, like for us we use a lot of drone, 40,000 you can have what we call 6 drones flying all over. We can get the data very, very fast. Now that's the advantage of technology, right? And then we are looking at technique, shoreline technique. We will keep on mentioning all this shoreline technique, but later on it's very, very simple. Don't worry about it first. And then restoration of affected area. That is where it is important for you to do initial risk assessment or conduct the risk assessment when you conduct in an area. Example, I'm familiar with this area called Podixon. Heard of Podixon? No. Alright. Basically, it's a beach area. So let me see. Okay, this is a stretch of about 40 kilometers. This is B, this is C. Around this area they have hotels, total about 48 hotels. So the main income is what you call basically from tourism. So the whole stretch here is about 28 kilometers. All beach area, but the whole trick here is you have two refinery here. Alright, refinery 1 and refinery 2, two separate refinery, something like that. And then you have from jetty, the pipeline going in, and here you have another jetty, pipeline going in this way. At this area, they have a power station using seawater to cool their equipment down. Alright, going up to this area is all aquaculture. And then of course when we talk about tourism, you have a lot of small shops, a few hundred, alright, a few hundred of small shops, and you have two fishing points. Fishing point 1 here, and 1 fishing point here. All together. So if in case of the spill happen in this area, we have 1 jetty, 2 jetty, but linked to all the 2 refineries. If a spill happen around here, you look at, we have 48 hotels being affected. 48 hotels being affected, plus fishermen. We got the registered number of fishermen is also about 400. Right, 400 fishermen. And then we have aquaculture farm. So just imagine, we are not talking about the damage first, we are talking about the impact of the damage. Right? Then, since we know that these are our key areas, right? Before the spill, you better pay someone to go and do study, get soil sample, photograph all these places. Why you need to photograph all these places? As evidence that you have done research in this area. How many hotels, how many fishermen? 400 registered fishermen. Can we see the 400 guys? Yes or no? Sometimes 400 fishermen, the person who's really working really 50. Right? So this is what we want to catch, all this data. Why we want to catch all this data? In case there's spill, how much money is going to cost?
Yeah. Because they're gonna claim.
Yes, everybody's going to claim.
Yes.
Even I'm going to claim.
Exactly.
So that is where you need to protect before the incident happens. So when you get all this data out, then this data, you have to come up with a communication plan. Not only to your management, the first part is of course the management. The second part, you call the local authorities. The local authorities tell them, okay, these are our findings. These are evidence. So you will be very, very clear. These are all our evidence. We have done research on it. Do you agree? Then they say, yes, we agree. Please sign. Take one copy. Please sign. Right? Why? Because end of the day, when the spill happened, they say, oh, your cleanup crew has not done a good job. But actually, it is done according to what the specification is. But they can always say, oh, it's not a good job. Still take it. So it's going to cost you money. Right? So even in one platform there is fire, the other platform should know. And then how can we support? What kind of support can we give here? So once we already have the what you call risk assessment, then how are we going to be effective in our response? That is the key issue here. Right? So just now we are looking at this finance. Where are the people going to get all the foam? Or where are the people going to get all the booms? So they need to work very closely with the emergency response coordinator, because like for me, I'm also the emergency response coordinator for Malaysia, this country, for 8 years in the what we call committee. So the committee is called PICMAC, right? Heard of PICMAC?
No.
Petroleum Industry Malaysia Mutual Aid Group.
Okay.
So this mutual
Committee.
So it's a national committee involved with 26 oil and gas companies. So I am a member of the committee. So we decide how to respond. Right? So that's where I get to travel. Whenever there's disaster, you get to travel. Alright? So that is where we also learn a lot of mistakes that we have made. What are the mistakes that we make? We have to learn and make sure that we won't make the same mistake again. Right? So that is where when we become instructors, we can tell you, okay, this how to avoid these mistakes. Right? So what we call the existing plan we are talking about, we talk about source and risk of spill. We need to identify which area there is the spill occurred, how it occurred, that's the crucial point. And then combat strategy. Combat strategy, that means how we're going to fight the spill, and then what kind of equipment we're going to use. So basically, if you are looking at crude, then what kind of equipment you should have. I have people calling me at midnight and saying that if I have diesel spill, the whole ferry went down with the diesel spill. Never mind, don't need to worry, just monitor the thing, tomorrow morning you will see. Why? Because diesel is evaporates, right? So I say, make sure there's no fire, it's good enough, right? So that is what we call. It's important to know our product. Yeah, our product. So if you say crude, then it's totally different. Then if you talk about diesel, it's totally different. In between, what is the way to do, right? Equipment resources available. That is very, very important. After we really conduct the risk assessment, we need to know what kind of equipment we need to have, what kind of training we should have, and then who we should have training with. Normally, this training is not only for our internal employees, but also together with local authorities. Why? Because then they will understand what we are supposed to do. And then, in most of cases, you also face that local authorities may not want to listen to you.
You cannot take the action without proper communication.
Correct. So that is where the training comes to play. One, you have drills with them. Number two, if possible, invite them like this type of training. You get people like me, third party telling you that, hey, you are wrong. You can't tell him that he's wrong, but I can tell him he's wrong. Alright? So that's where sometimes we do in our local, with our local authorities. We invite some of the other parties coming. Indirectly, we are targeting them. We are telling them that hey, you are not right. This is the way to do this. So of course we cannot tell them that directly. So we use other people. Right. So again, we look at technology in oil spill. Nowadays, with what you call more modern technology, with internet, with all that, we can get weather report, weather forecast, wind current, wind speed, all that. Have you heard about the software called Oil Map? So Oil Map. Oil Map, what do you call, once there's a spill, you can key in your data saying that, okay, I have a spill, approximately how much spill, what type of crude, wind direction, everything. Then they will come up with you a simulation of where this oil going to go for the next 6 hours to 12 hours.
In Brazil, the Brazilian agents monitor by satellite. If you have any field, they can identify the oil spill, then they send a notification from the platform.
That's
Very sensitive.
Yeah, very sensitive. They can identify by satellite, then sometimes it's like we face one facility, it's not even oil spill, but it was the chemical, but the chemical switch for the water. No like pollution. But create
The
sheen.
Yeah.
They create a sheen, then identify, then send notification, send the boat to confirm. Yeah, just to confirm it is there.
So because we need all this technology to help us,
Yes.
help us detect. Because there's a lot of good companies, but there are also bad companies.
Yes.
Right? The bad companies, they say, nobody knows.
Don't care.
Don't care, right?
Yeah.
So then the next thing is, how do we communicate with each other? Right? chef. So basically, what we call modern technology with proper software, I think is going to help us a lot in what we call high-speed response. But the only thing is, who in your company is going to be the owner, the keeper of this? That is the most important part. Shall we go for break?
I reckon break.
Then we will continue again.
Okay.
Office just there in the back, right?
Yeah, the bunch. Sometimes it's very different. Like you tier 3, you go to your client.
Yeah.
So your client also must have an emergency response protocol.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I'm sure most of the clients should have.
Yes.
Most of the clients should have. If they don't have, something is very wrong.
But I can give an example. Our project will be the first project, first FPSO in Senegal. Then we understand the government, they don't have knowledge, as you mentioned, we should bring the government authorities to start the training. The problem is, the client already started the drilling campaign. They are drilling, but there is no emergency response in place, because if you have any oil spill during the drilling, how they gonna manage?
So that is why a lot of companies now, if you are talking about European companies, even China company, they go to all these third world countries because the law is not there.
Yes.
So I drill, I take their money away. That's the problem, right? So we finish our module 1. So this has been happening all over the world, right? All over the world.
Yeah.
So we will look at the effect of oil spilling. Module 2 will be talking about what is the effect of oil spill. Alright? So of course the most popular one is the deep water horizon.
Yes.
Deep water horizon, they even have a movie for it. Why? It's because somebody want to save some money.
The depreciation actually comes back to hit us now, solar accounts and then reference losses. That really hits us as losses now, solar accounts. And so that means to an extent we are over-capitalized for our business.
It's lista da Chief Legal and Corporate Affairs lista as a international company says, as governments, they understand the losses and frustrations from sector players.
It's a finite resource. We must plan for it so that it serves this generation and the next generations. So that requires that planning is taken seriously. And planning would require putting in place the regime that governs it, both in laws and fiscal policy.
This is using non-terms, non-transaction scheduling.
It's environmental management and stakeholder engagement, and it's usage of revenues. So we have to make sure that all those are accounted for. So our environmental laws are very loose through, and they are very well structured. Protect the environment as we exploit oil and gas.
The value from looking place, the oil and gas project has attracted more investors.
The South African Google and ECOM. ECOM is going to be funded through debt finance, finance and a bit of equity. Now, for you to attract international funders in oil and gas these days, you must have met World Bank IC standards for use of environment and social impact assessment.
It was the Vietnamese and the name.
So for now we are also looking at OPRC, that means the Oil Pollution Preparedness Response. So this is an article in 1990, the convention was held. That is when now there's a lot of oil spill awareness in third world countries also because of this OPRC, right? So it developed the national response system. So before we look at OPRC, it goes down to national, the country itself. So in between the OPRC and national, we have regional. So if the national, example Malaysia, the regional will be ASEAN. Then ASEAN will go to OPRC. So what the OPRC do is they facilitate international cooperation. They help sometimes cross-border, so far Malaysia, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, not much problem. But sometimes they have problem. When they have problem, OPRC comes in. OPRC say, hey, you two don't fight. Come, let's sit down, solve this problem. Right? So, obligation of the parties is here is the national contingency plan, and here we are looking at the local. This is a tier 1, this is a tier 2. Right? So what are you going to do at national level? And before the national level can do anything, they will always refer to your tier 1. Back to this one. Back to this one meaning they will look into your manual again. Your manual, your oil spill response plan, and look at your equipment, look at your training. Do you have mutual aid? Right? Mutual aid now has become very important item. Why? Because we can share the resources. Right? One, number two, we learn from other people's experience. Whereas if you are looking at this like OSR is a private company, right? They come and make sure that I'm going to take as much money as possible. But mutual aid is different, right? So the impact, of course, you already know what kind of impact we're looking at in the event of spill, and then how we're going to do the cleanup. We look at cleanup costs, but then we're looking at economic losses. So we go into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's already there. Not talking about this tangible loss, right? A lot of things we can replace. Today we lost a phone, we can replace. But you loss of life. That we cannot replace, right? So obligation from the party. First is minimum level of equipment. that is tier 1, minimum level of equipment. Program exercise training, then we are talking about training, right? Then communication capabilities. Plan, we have OSR plan, and then communication capabilities. That means how we talk to each other during emergency and also during with the government. There's three types of communication we are looking at. One is internal communication. That means your organization right? Your organization. Number 2, we are looking at external. Government. Number 3, we are looking at media. Media and stakeholder. So internal communication, that means we can talk among each other. So when we talk about each other, we also have to use equipment. Equipment, walkie-talkies, all that. And then we have forms, right? These are the communication method. With government, it's best that one person is always there and talk face to face. Because if we don't do interfacing, so in the tier response, then we have national shipping, and then we have bilateral. That means this bilateral is more like mutual aid, right? And then regional and sub-regional. Regional and sub-regional can be like ASEAN, it can be Asia, what we call Malaysia, Indonesia cooperation. It can be Japanese, what we call cooperation. So all this is the regional and sub-regional hub. And then of course global is OPRC. OPRC actually they do not have any equipment. They only have guidelines for you. So this is the same thing as we see in what we call module 2, the national, multinational, national capacity, and then the regional. It's the same thing like here. Right? The only difference here is they put a group 1, 2, 3. Group 1, group 3, which is you don't look at this group. You just look at tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So, objective of regional cooperation is enhance the national resource capacity. That means you don't have to keep everything yourself. So, like if each of us is one company or one country, that means I can keep some, you can keep some, you can keep some. So there will not be a major stock up. You don't have to keep a lot of stock, right? Then mechanism for early warning. If I have a spill, I will inform you. Hey, my spill is coming to your area. That's the early warning system, right? And then technical innovation and joint training. Technical innovation, something new that we want to find out. How can we join each other for training? What kind of training? Maybe you have a better training than me, right? So can I learn? So these are the things we are looking at. And then, of course, good experience in regional agreement, right? Advantages recognized by OPRC, right? Because once we have all these regional bodies, then we become recognized. Even this Big Mac, PIMMAG, Petroleum Industry Malaysia Future Aid Group. We are recognized by what you call OPRC. So minimum we are looking at is definition of geographical boundaries. Then we are looking at the zone, who is responsible for which zone. So what we can see is they have subdivided into some of the zones. Right? Don't worry about this zone, I will not stress much on this zone because you will your representative in the something like this payment organization will know who to refer. But the whole idea is for you, you need to know is there is zoning, right? There is zoning, that's important. Then minimum requirement is establish an organization structure. That is your minimum requirement. Do you have organization structure? Is it enough? Adequate enough for you? What is your tier 1 response? Your equipment meets the tier 1 response. Then if it does, then you should be in minimum requirement. So to undertake responsibility assessing nature and size of an incident. That's where your risk management come in. Keeps under surveillance. That means how often, like this company, they have pipeline, 2 major pipeline here. One, another one is from here. How often they do the surveillance? They're doing it every day. Every day. So even what they call a minor pinhole leak, they will know. They're doing it every day. So that's where you're looking at the day to inform other parties. Yeah, like these 2 companies, they have any spill, they will inform each other. Normally they will also contact me. So because I'm involved in both the companies, right? So we know what we are going to do. Be ready to render certain assistance when required.
The quantify some platform requiring support.
So this is the hardest one because sometimes when you sleep at 3 in the morning, they call you up. And then you have to drive all the way, all that. But it doesn't happen every day, right? So, how you request for assistance? Party reimburse cost of assisting party. That is the first thing. Whatever assistance they give you, you have to pay back. Of course, some of it, like here we do, we supply food for the people, sometimes we don't take that money. Only the major items like foam, major equipment that's damaged, then we take the money. Right? Then, action taken on own initiative. What kind of initiative you are looking at? They also need to. If I bring my own food to your house, then you also have to prepare some food for me. Then we can share our food together. That sort of things. And then cost to reimburse compensation regime. Sometimes they will pay the staff. Sometimes you don't pay. So what is the arrangement you're looking at? So request for PORAP. So this is PORAP, Pollution Reporting System. I always put the smaller one just to make sure that we know which article because there's too many things to remember. So this is one of the what I call foreign organization. Which countries are involved if there is spill in Caspian Sea? So this is one of the examples. So in Caspian Sea, Russia is involved, Kazakhstan is involved, Turkmenistan is involved.
Yeah, because this, if any incident happen with one will be really catastrophic. But it's like a lake, big lake.
So yeah, big lake.
Yeah.
I've been to here. I've been to
Okay.
Yemen. It's all the beach side is a lot of rocks, right?
Okay.
Huge rocks. Huge rocks. You see nothing, not much green, but all rocks. A lot of pretty ladies. You just can see them. There's a lot.
This method explains the purpose and use of the Wondershare Filmora system, or program, for the Caspian Sea. The relevant authorities of each country surrounding establish national laws for the awareness and response systems. This program allows a unique regional communication system with the next programs of operation between these countries. A two-market convention to the protocol, the London system. There are two key transfers in the system. Firstly, when there is an issue or force to transfer renewable information, potentially causing damage to the environment and countries' system. Secondly, when the one country is affected, the information about the information such that it's any other systems that are request on that country. The primary is a standardized form using a shorter direction with few numbers. Part 1 is the information learned by the Part 2 is the information information of and Part 3 is the information facilities of future. This line will walk through the completion of the information in the first 2 points of the following. It uses a fictitious location and location. This is what the station is generated by Google. Use the time of the releasing not selection. This is so that its users are clear information relates to specific parts of the group. Here is a summary of fictitious instances of law. The introduction to the law will likely identify what will be thought as urgent, as response to the risk invariably requires rapid decision-making by action. The country sending the report to TTT is indicated. In a typical case, the report will be sent to all the other countries, Tehran Convention Secretariat, and the EU. The plan is shared through the national operational process as identified by the Thames Tribe Group, or TTT, uses a 6-figure number, built upon the reproduction of the time of the report, not the time of the incident. The first 2 figures of the TTT are date, and the next 4 are time. Using the 24-month clock and identifying those that are located in opportunity, the lines and 6 trees. In our scenario, we will say the report is going to be 40 to 5 lines. This is completed in 14 and 16 and 35 locals and 23 March 19. The identification is used to decide to the organization single the purpose of contact. It typically supports Tehran Convention, and
it's useful to indicate which four parts of human capacity, in this case, is called warm. The singular allows each report to be easily identifiable and receiving organizations should be able to check what all the reports against them have been resolved. To create a singular, the nation identity should follow on stream and the name and shape of the explanation of the
Okay, the form you don't have to know how to fill in, but basically you don't have to look at that form. What you need to look is something like this: ICS 201. You may have a different format, but it will basically tell you where is the spill, who is involved with the spill.
Quantity, volume.
Yeah. So these are some of the information that you need to provide. So when you provide the information, this information you will send to your representative, regional representative. They will fill out the form for you. Right? This one is incident command system. It's being used especially in FEMA, in US, all that. We are using this.
From your organization, HSC manager will fill.
Correct. So the HSC must be aware of what's happening.
Exactly.
But if they are not aware, then you tell them, hey, you need to do this.
You need to do training.
You need to go back for training. So the intergovernmental regional centers are here. Right? Northwest Pacific, Caribbean, we have Ocean Gulf, and Mediterranean. So these are some of the inter-regional centers. Alright? We don't have to memorize, you need to know there is regional centers. Alright? So government equipment stockpile for ASEAN, there we call it OSRAP. OSRAP involved with Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore. Then these are the stockpile equipment. These like OSRL, and this what you call OSEC. These are all private companies. Anytime you call, they are willing to answer your telephone call because you pay for it. Right? Because you are paying for it. So these are all private companies mostly. So that's why they can afford to come up with a lot of what you call handbook for you, procedures, forms, everything inside, including reporting procedures, all inside here. So even you report, you just write the event, you make a radio, then you write down. So they will know what's happening. So you have evidence, they also will record your evidence. See? Industry stockpile. What industry stockpile, that means how much can we keep? So why we don't want to keep so much is because one is too expensive. Why we have Big Mac stockpile, we are talking about easily 40 over 50 million ringgit Malaysian currency. 40, 50 million is about close to 10 to 15 USD billion.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, right? And then, do we use it every day? No. So if we don't use it every day, the equipment have lifespan. What we call booms, they have lifespan. So all these, after a certain number of years, they have to change. So all this money, where you will find. And all these booms, every day we need to do testing. Right? Can it still float on water?
Yeah.
Right? So who are going to do all this testing? That is where all the money goes. So it is cheaper to have a consortium this way that everybody contribute. how they charge is based on your production value. Alright, the more production you have, the higher you pay price. The least production you have, you pay the minimum price. So that's what they are trying to do. That's what they are doing in Malaysia. Responsibility of receiving client. Who is responsible of receiving client? This is run by another group of people, which we also pay them salary. They are specialized in this area. They just sit down, wait for calls. Any calls, they go to respond. So the respond is not free. The charges will be there. So these charges will go back to the fund to support the group.
This is 24 hours.
Yes, 24 hours. So their response time, this organization response time, the fastest is 2 hours. Depends the area in Malaysia. The latest will be 24 hours. So another one we need to look at if we are in the ship is International Tanker Owners Pollution Federation Limited.
Very good.
Alright, so what they do is respond on behalf of the members. I do not know about tankers so much, so do they help? But I know shipping, for rescue they do help. But for oil spill, I'm not too sure. Right? But then advice in effective cleanup, yes, advisory, always they do. And then provide guidance, yes, they do. This I've seen before. But only thing is respond on behalf of the member. Very rare that I've seen. So we here again, every time we talk about bilateral ties that mutually ties in a state and industry stockpile, we really talk about industry stockpile, and then procedure for facilitating external assistance, how we discuss. So all this should be managed ahead of time before incident. After incident happens, then everything is in chaos. So spill notification procedure, how do we inform each other? Normally there is another form that we will set out. We have a spill at this time, expected spill, what are the product spill, do we need help or not? Yes, it's a very short form, we send out. That's the first information that we get, we send out. Then after that, what are the subsequent information that we need to support? Because in any disaster, the first 1 hour is totally chaos. Right? For oil spill, not that bad. If you look at fire incident or explosion incident, the first hour is very, very messy. Very, very messy. And then we are also looking at funding arrangement. These are all repeat from the module 3. Module 3 are talking about all this earlier. We are talking about this earlier is because we need to prepare all this before the incident. Safety, logistics support, external assistance, transport, vessel, recovery of oil, what kind of recovery method you're going to use. Now they have the floating booms that you can pump oil in, right? So do we have that? How many we need? So all this come in, and then demobilization, demop equipment to lender. When you demop equipment, somebody borrow you certain thing, when you have to demop back, you need to make sure it's clean. You need to make sure it's good in condition. Or you just set back the whole rubbish that way. Right? So if the equipment is damaged, do you need to reimburse? in any oil spill, definitely there will be damages of equipment. Some equipment cannot be used anymore, right? So how are we going to pay back? Then this is where they will negotiate again. Say, hey, your equipment is 10 years old. Last time you buy at this price, say $10. Now it should be cheaper.
Now change.
So,
Yeah.
so can we change the price? They will negotiate. So in Mako, there are a few annexes that you need to look at. The oil obligatory, what you call chemical obligatory, package of chemicals, sewage, garbage, all that. But you have to memorize that. Just need to know that in Mako, there are what we have been talking about this morning, all is mentioned inside. Alright. So India also is mentioned in Module 3, flagship owners worldwide. Right? And then other ship which is commit violation. That means if you see another ship what you call do the waste or throw some waste, will you report? You have to answer yourself. Right? And then severe penalties to discourage, and then we are looking at administration enforcement. This one is more on legislative side. Right? Intervention C is a little bit difficult, I think, because sometimes ships, especially at night, you can't see anything, any discharge, so you cannot see. When you think that you know the next one at the beach, that's something different. Right? So, but you have the right to interfere at the sea, right? Then the next thing is measurement, pollution, coastline related interest, because everywhere coastline is also interested in so many people, right? Then state extensive flexibility to take whatever measures that is deemed appropriate. That means the state government will tell you that they want what you have to give them. Alright? So, of course, interest area, we are still talking about all the fishing area, what we call tourist attraction, the industries, all that. This one will always be there. So here we are looking at the compensation paid by ship owner and insurer. That's the first tier. Okay. If anything happens on the ship owner and the ship insurance will pay. Yeah. If this two payment is insufficient, the receiver of the thing is involved. Pay. Right? So that means if I buy crude from you, alright? When you sell to me through ship, so your responsibility is finished because you will resell, right? When the ship is coming to me, anything happen to the ship, there's oil spill, then ship insurance will pay, right? Anything less than, anything more than that, my insurance will pay.
Yeah. Normally we have a P&I club that will have insurance that cover, if you are above this, like the limit of the insurance, you have to cover insurance.
Normally in ship insurance also are smart.
Yeah.
They have a limit.
Yes.
They will say, okay, my limit is 5 million US, USD. Anything more than 5 million USD, I don't have the money.
Example is the Deep Horizon incident.
Correct.
because they estimate the limit, but the cost after the catastrophic situation, they are huge cost. The company or the bank investment can pay.
So this is what we are looking at, a compensation. Right? Then this convention, this lot of a lot of agreement to make sure that we are held accountable for what we do, right? So under this CLC 92 or Civil Liability Convention, right? Civil Liability Convention. So how many, who should pay and what we should pay, how much we should pay is all also mentioned in this civil liability, right? So in summary, just now what we see is OPRC. OPRC is talking about pollution emergency plan, and then from there, how does the plan works, right? And then, what is the global framework of pollution response? So, basically, OPRC is just an organization with all the guidelines. They will come up with a framework. This framework will be disseminated to regional. Then from the regional, it takes the form into equipment, manpower, or other resources. Okay? Then we look at this tier system. So they will come with tier system. These are all their framework, and then the equipment companies. So by that we finish. Give me 5 minutes.
Oi? Pergunta do baixo. Outro de baixo.
Ah, mas essa garrafinha é doce. Ah, você quer copinho, ó. Se quiser pegar uma garrafa, pega aqui nesse.
Liability, this module 5, we are looking at liability and compensation, meaning how are we going to pay the people? How are we going to pay the fishermen? How are we going to pay the hotels? All that. Right? So here we are looking at another shell oil spill, and then look at how they work onto the incident. These are all real incidents. So it is by one giant company. Almost 14,000 people depend on fishing, and now Shell said it's not their responsibility to clean up, right? So the question is why Shell don't want to take the responsibility? Just imagine 14,000 people, alright? If we are looking at $1,000 per month for 14,000 people times 10 years, we look at the amount of money that we have.
Unfortunately, this situation happened because it's in Africa. If not in Africa, like in Europe,
Yes.
probably gonna make action.
So that is where they are looking at why the third world countries is being manipulated by the international court of law. Even what they call, they report to the court, international court also not want to move. Why they do not want to move? So this is more political. So when we look at that, then we have to look at the CELC 1982 International Convention on Damages to Pollution, right? And then we are also looking at Fund Convention. But this Fund Convention is actually it's not fund of money. It's the money to help really rehabilitate the area that is being polluted. So this fund is used to do recovery work. It's not to pay out to people. So a lot of people misunderstand what fund is for. There's money coming in. There's actually no money coming in. It's money to help the area. That's all. So in 1982, when the fund convention comes in, who gets the what they call the oil cargo receiver? Goes money to the oil cargo receiver and not to the people. And then the tanker owners, civil liability, insurance company will do the place to pay for the tanker. So this is limit. You see, primary layer of compensation. This is limited, right? This is where the receiver can close down. Registered owners liable unless there is act of war. Other than that, they are liable. If act of war, they are not liable. Then, of course, they will require insurance certificate. So, when the shippers, for the buyer, they need to know the tankers or the shippers, how much is their insurance coverage. For refinery, normally we will advise look at their insurance. Then, of course, what kind of direct action they will take. Direct action here, we are looking at the shippers will take what kind of action. Do they have any plans? How fast they can react to their emergency response? Do they have additional tankers around that area to transfer their crew? All that we also need to understand. And then limit of loss. That is where we call is critical for buyers to know the limit of loss. So you look at the limit of loss, they have a ceiling. But what we call for the buyer, the ceiling is higher. This is the same thing, but then this one is the breakdown by medians, right? this incident command system has been used basically all over the world. Right? What you call the whole thing here, we will look at the ICS system used by Salvation Army. How, as yesterday we also discussed that ICS being used, we can even use for parties, right? For meetings or so many other events. So let us have a look at how Salvation Army use ICS system.
We're here at Rinaldi Balboa, where an underground gas line exploded early this morning. Now, you can see behind me the plant.
Even before a disaster strikes, the Salvation Army is ready with a response plan. The Incident Command System provides the management structure to implement this plan.
Names of several homes that went up in flames and just completely burned down this morning. We are
At the top of the Incident Command System chart is the Policy Group. The Policy Group provides guidance and overall direction to the disaster relief operation. It sets objectives and priorities. The Policy Group also decides on the level of financing and how long the operation will last. But the most important responsibility of the Policy Group is to appoint a qualified incident commander, sometimes called the IC, and ensure that the IC has the resources necessary to deliver services. The incident commander is the field manager of the disaster operation and implements the policy group's decisions. Every disaster operation will have an incident commander, and there can only be one per operation. However, on smaller incidents, like a house fire, the first Salvation Army disaster worker to respond to the event assumes the role of the incident commander until a more qualified person arrives. For small disasters, the incident commander may directly manage every aspect of the response. As the complexity of the disaster grows, the incident commander delegates authority to others, ensuring that no position is overwhelmed. The incident commander supervises these positions. The command staff consists of 4 different positions. The public information officer is the central point of contact between the relief team and all media organizations. This is the person who keeps the public and other Salvation Army units informed about the response team's activities. The public information officer leads certain.
So the emergency response structure, we go back to module 1, it will be something like this. We are talking about the lead agency. And then we have the support agency. And finally, we have one more is the mutual aid group. So the lead agency is the first group that reaches the site, the incident location. However, the support agency can be the government agency. They will come later, so they will take over. Right? When they take over, how these 3 groups integrate to play a role in supporting the ICS. So
Liaison.
yes, okay. From this, each group will have their own ICs, right? And each group will have their own liaison. They have their own safety officer and other things, and then you have their own operation, logistic, finance administration, and planning. So each group, the operation will fall into, okay, say this is group 1, group 2, and group 3. So they will have the 1, 2, 3. They will sit together. Why they need to sit together is different group will have different skills, different knowledge. So if there's 3 of us here, each of us have different skill and knowledge. So we can share and say, okay, this is the best outcome for the situation. Then everybody agree, then we adopt this system, this method. So the same thing happens to the logistic, finance, admin, and planning. The planning side, of course, if you are looking at our industry fire, who are the best people to do in the planning side? It's us ourselves. It's not the government department, right? So we will be sitting down, the government department, and advising them, this is the best solution. And then, what kind of equipment do we need? Then it goes back to logistic. Logistic, can you get me this equipment? Then if logistics says, yes, I can get you this equipment, then the plan will proceed. If you cannot get that equipment, what other alternative plan we are looking at? So that's how it works. So the ICS is used to manage incident and non-emergency matters. Alright, that's very clear. And like this, we can manage a few groups into one. Then we are looking at equally well for both parties. That means small and large situation, how we are going to use ICS in that scenario. And then what you call, of course, ICS can be used in various types of incidents, from oil spill, firefighting, rescue work, all that can be used. And it is scalable. That means we can expand or we can reduce the size. Right? So this is the feature we are looking at. First, the organization. What is the ICS organization? We already explained here. This is how various parties work together. And then this is the ICS structure we are looking at. Then incident facilities. What kind of facilities we are looking at? This is where logistics comes in. These logistic people will tell you what they have. So beforehand, they will already tell you, emergency walkie-talkies, I have how many? Emergency, do we have available thing for helicopters, transport, medical,
consumables?
Consumables. So this is what we are looking at on the logistic point of view. And then if we are looking at oil spill, this equipment coming in to us, is it in good working condition? Who's going to test it out? The logistic people are going to test it out. Right? So that is the incident facility. Then the incident action plan. Who conduct the incident action plan is the planning unit. Right? The planning unit, what they are supposed to do. Why they plan? If you are looking at refinery fire, it's a pinhole fire. We shut down one valve, probably the whole fire is gone. Right? But how are we going to clear the volume in the pipeline? So that will come, what we call, the planning unit will come in and say, okay, how do you think we are going to clear this pipeline? Or are we going to allow it to burn until it's finished? Right? Because if you don't have enough facilities to clear the pipeline, where are you going to clear? Are you going to put it down into the sea? Or you let it burn? You shut down there, let it burn. Let it finish, then we don't have waste management. Right? So this is what the planning unit will be looking at. Then we are looking at span of control. Span of control is the size of course, you look at the size of an incident. It is tier 1, it's local. Local, that means the span of control is only by your incident commander itself. If the span of control going to tier 3, then the span of control goes to national level. So So national level, who will be involved? Politicians are involved, district officers are involved, too many people involved. And then that is when we look at common responsibilities. Different group, we have the government group, we have the existing company, and we have support group.
So do you consider support group consultants?
No, support group is like earlier on I told you, your company and my company.
Yeah.
We signed an agreement saying that if anything happen in the event of disaster, we support each other.
Okay.
So we are not consultants, we are supporting
partnership.
each other. Partnership,
Yeah, okay.
right?
Good.
So these are the common responsibilities. My operation team will be working with your operations. Right? Then the final part, application. What is application actually? Application can be from operational matters. How we do technical support. What kind of technical support to address the situation? If it's a oil spill situation, then what kind of application will be used? What kind of equipment we have?
Yeah.
We need
Techniques.
yeah, the technique, we need boats, we need booms, we need dispersant, we need what we call sprayer. If right at the middle of the sea, we are not going to use sprayer, we're going to use airplane,
Yeah.
right? So these are the applications we are looking at. So, as explained in the video just now, these are the functions that we are looking at. So very straightforward, the only thing is I change the direction.
Yeah.
That's all. Basically the function is all the same as we discussed here, right? So when it comes to operation section, this is additional. This operation section we are looking at, you can see the word air operation branch, we have strike team, task force. This is more on the government level of what we call ICS. So basically, our ICS will look like operation, PR, finance, logistics, and planning. So you have a very simple, you have staging area. Why do you need staging area? All the equipments come in. So if you have an area of 3 kilometers spill, where do you want this equipment to be?
Okay. You mean to store the material, the pieces
Yes.
in warehouse?
Yeah, it's something like a warehouse. Okay, example, we go back to the beach yesterday.
Yeah.
We have
You can create a temporary
yeah,
warehouse.
correct. So you can have maybe 1 or 2 staging areas.
Yes.
Why? This part of the beach is already 10 kilometers. So in between there, you have 1
Alright.
staging area. So all your equipment will reach at staging area 1. Then subsequently, you have another staging area 2, where equipment will be there.
Then you're gonna call to safety to apply the security for this warehouse.
Alright, yes. Because otherwise, when the items come in, sometimes you have a lot of items coming in, and you do not know which section this item belongs. When all come to the staging area, the logistic people will accept all the goods, receive all the goods. Then they look at your manifest. Who is requesting for what product? Right?
Can establish the control.
Yeah. So they say, okay, section 1, you request for absorbent booms. The absorbents are here, the booms are here. Do you have manpower to collect, or do I need to send it? Right? So that's where we look at it, because probably your HQ may not be here. That's why you need a staging area. Right? So from here, we look at the division. Of course, the division striking the air group. If we are going to use aeroplane, then we need an air group. The aeroplane is going to release the dispersal, right? But if we are looking at this bridge scenario, we do not need an air group. So we may, once we don't need an air group, we may need C group, because we are going to use tugboats with sprayer arms to spray, right? So this can change. The air operation branch can change. Probably the air operation branch, we need just one helicopter to take photo and videos. Then we can identify the ship. If you have a drone, then you are faster. You just fly the drone, capture all the picture, come back. So that is what we are looking at in this operation section. Right? Then we go to planning section. How to demobilize the unit, documentation. So all the requests that comes in. So we are looking at section 1, section 2, section 3, 4, 5, and 6, maybe 7. All these sections make requests. So this request will go to the planning unit. The planning unit will say, will receive all this information, and then from there they will come up with a strategy. Remember yesterday we were talking about we have briefing at 9 a.m. and we have at 1 p.m. and we have at 5 a.m. This is where the planning unit sits in, and they receive information from operation. From operation, will feed them information. This morning, these are the areas that what we observe. Of course, they send photograph, all that. And then the next strategy, morning observation. And then here, strategy. Can we implement? Do we have the equipment to implement? So that's why they're looking at all the documentation must come in. Then they look at, do we have the equipment to implement? If yes, can we proceed by the next morning? So this will be the day 1, and we're going to day 2. So can we carry forward in day 2? But in day 2, early in the morning, you will receive another news. Can we still implement the strategy on day 2, or do we need to change again?
Yeah, we need to evaluate, but yeah, in the morning you suggested 5 p.m. We make assessment for the test that have been done, and also plan for the next day.
Correct.
Yeah, and the 9 a.m. you just review it, you can evaluate. If something change the scenario, you can also update.
You have, yes, you can update, you can change.
Exactly.
When we look at tactical strategy, it should be flexible. It should be flexible. So, because we are looking at natural disaster, we are looking at
weather condition, weather change,
all that. So it has to change according to the weather conditions. Then of course we also need to look at logistics. the most important part in logistics work, any disaster when it strikes, the first thing they need to do is make sure there's enough food and water.
Yeah.
Right? Because firefighters cannot last more than 30 minutes without water. It's very hot, even when you wear a bunker suit, it's still hot, right? You cannot last 30 minutes. So the first thing is water. What do you call it? You have the isotonic drink. These are the most important things. Then the second factor comes in the food, because why they get hungry very fast.
Yeah, I saw in the video the position for like psychology, for mental health, to analyze the mental health. It's good because if you stay longer in the incident, the people become tired, increase the mental issues, mental health. Then it's the time for people start to make assessment regarding fatigue as well. It's really intense here.
So the mental health, there's now the what? Salvation Army, we have the mental health side. The MH370 incident, the missing Malaysian airplane. Alright? They have a group of mental health people coming in. So, and that is also divided into religion, right? So they have the Muslim,
Okay.
they have the Christian and the Buddhist. Because this incident,
Different behaviors.
yeah, because different belief and then different approach.
Yeah.
So, what we call my team, but I was not involved in this, my team was involved in this. They went for what we call it emotional support group. Emotional support group, because I'm a Buddhist.
Yeah.
So we have quite a few Chinese victims down there. So they provide the emotional support. So that is optional in the event of a major disaster. But normally we are quite well prepared in the sense that in any religion, if you ask them to volunteer in emotional support group, offhand they say, okay, I'm free, yes, I'll help.
I see.
That's it. Then the final part we are looking at is procurement. Normally after the planning unit, it goes to procurement. So the planning unit was discussed about what technical they want to use, what equipment they want to use. Then the next thing they will go back to logistics. They ask logistics, do you have this equipment? Logistics said, I got no equipment, zero equipment. Then they will go to finance and say, I need money to buy. So then finance will say, what do you need? A ship. Are you going to buy a ship? No. You rent a ship. Right? Yeah. So not necessarily anything you want we buy. So sometimes you rent, you borrow, whatever it is. So that is the finance admin part. Then the most interesting part for the finance admin is the administration itself. Like I said yesterday, we are talking about historian. What is historian's duty? You see some of our video. What date, time, plane crash. This time the drill cap burst. So these are the timing that we capture. These are the historian timing that we capture. But that is the major one. Historian go in more detail. In more detail meaning, if there's an event of a fire in refinery, they will tell you at 9 a.m. the fire start. 9:10, the first 9:05, the first responder in the refinery already on site fighting the fire. 9:10, the first fire truck from the government firefighting department came in. 9:15, another fire truck come in. What is a fire truck number? How many men? Why we record all this data? So historian is very, very important. Because end of the day, we need to know how many trucks are in. We have an exercise. So the security say, no, any government department comes in, we just open the gate. Fine. You want to comment anything? Let it run. So, end of the day, after we had a postmortem, we asked, how many fire trucks are inside? Oh, not too sure. Not too sure. Okay. One. How many firefighters are inside? When we step down, we have the head count, all the firefighters in one piece. Then they start to say, how come the civil defense ambulance was inside the red zone? Normally ambulance will be on the yellow zone, not red zone. Why it is inside there? Then that is, it's not that we are attacking a person, but we want to learn. And we want to make sure everybody knows the system. Knows the system.
You control the situation, right?
Correct.
People start going to other areas they're not supposed to be, becomes a mess. And then you don't have control.
Yes.
Then it's chaos.
So if everybody going into the red zone, you are out of control. We have a lot of flood in Malaysia. And then we have a lot of volunteers. And some of them are individual volunteers who's willing to help people. The whole idea is very, very good. But when they reach to the red zone side, the police were all there. You can go in, you can go outside. And then, the press will release, oh, police do not allow rescuers to go inside. One, are you trained? What is your competency? Otherwise, we have to rescue more people inside there.
Yeah.
Right? So, all this we need to look into it. So that is where, when we set all these ICS, we have the red zone, we have the yellow and green zone. Actually, we are actually setting standards and priorities. That is what we are doing, right? Because end of the day, we are not going to have more people as a victim or more property damage. The intention of people, other groups that come in to help is good, but if they are not in the mutual aid group or they are not in sync with our training method, it's best to leave them out. So now we look at oil spill commander. They will assess the situation. Normally, oil spill commander will not go to the field, they will be in the control room. So how they will assess is through information. Information, of course, like this drawing, when you can give them, they will look at the drawing. If you have pictures, it gives them a better idea of what they're going to do. And from there, they will determine what is the scale of the incident.
Right now, the incident, the technology that we have in place now, they can also make a video call and send the video call to the emergency room for the people. You can make a video call for the people, also see inside the emergency room on time. It's now, even though we don't have it like CFTV in the area because it's a beach, but they can provide a video call and people see and evaluate on site.
It's like me putting up a
Exactly. Put the camera, then like live, start live, then share the information.
Yes.
Right now the technology provides
So
the
that
support.
is what we are looking at from yesterday. We are looking at
Yes.
that technology is going to help us a lot.
Yes.
In a good way, in a bad way.
So
also.
yeah, that's a good way, yeah.
In a good way, right? So then what it will help us to decide what kind of priorities we need to take, right? So with all the technologies coming in, then the incident, commander, the IC, don't have to go out. This person will look at it and say, okay, this is the situation at section 1, this is the situation at section 2. So they can come up with a solution that overall what we are going to do. Right? So incident command post. Here you have your what you call staging area. Your staging area can be your incident command post, right? Probably you can have even more because incident command post is a smaller unit. Why you have to need the incident command post is you need to know the progress of each area, right? What is the progress? So the most critical command post, that means the most critical area that you have a dedicated command post by itself. But for oil spill, normally every few sections, then they will have one. Because the oil is already spilled, we already know what's the situation. Unless it's a fire incident, then the command structure shift, there will be a little bit of change. Then we are looking at meetings and schedule, on schedule. This is what we are looking at. Day 1, how many meetings we have. Day 2, how many meetings we have. Why we are having all these meetings scheduled? Because we want to make sure that what time we can do press release. Remember, the public wants to know what happened.
Yeah, should report, should
Yeah.
send the report.
So we are sending the report to the IC.
Yeah.
Then the IC will compile all this report and tell the PR person, hey, we're going to say this. Right? Approve and authorize action plan. That's the IC's job. Definitely, he or she has to do that. In my previous job, my IC is a lady. So whatever we tell, she say okay. So it's easy to get it approved. Yeah, easy to get it approved because she is the big head. Then we will tell, okay, what's the technical plan? Draw it. Okay, proceed. So it's easy for me. Right? Then we are looking at adequate safety measures. What kind of safety measures? If you have tugboats going out, you have with the sprayers. What kind of safety measures have we? Besides life jacket, what else you need? Do you need
PPEs,
other types of respirator systems? So all that comes in. Then we are looking at activity, command, and general staff. The command post itself, if this is the command post, only the key leaders, that means the key leaders of the group, the operation will be in, and one assistant. We don't want too many people coming in. Whereas then if it escalates to tier 3, that means you will have 2 command centers. Why 2 command centers? One is for the government and one is for yourself. So what you get is you get your people to do the groundwork from your command center, goes to the government side and say, okay, this is what we are looking at. And of course the government also will keep running their own meeting. Coordinate with key people and officials. Those who are not involved, chase them out. If you want, you can have another room, media room. That means any press conference is in that media room. So you separate the thing. Why do you need to separate the thing out? Otherwise, if you are in the media people is in your command center, they will start taking photograph. They will start looking at information. And this information is not being approved. Then they print out and say, unconfirmed sources saying that this is happening. So who is the unconfirmed sources? So what we want want to make sure is that all the media personnel push them to media. Give them more drinks, more food, ask them to wait there. Alright? Then of course the IC need to approve all the requests for resources. Resources we are looking at manpower, everything. Right? Keep agency administrators informed of all the status. The IC will go to the government IC and say, Mr. Minister, this is what happened, this is what we're going to do, this is the next step, what's our action plan for the next few hours, and what is the next projected plan for tomorrow. They will inform. Approve use of trainees, volunteers, and auxiliary personnel. How much people you need to use? Because the more people you use, is more money. Right? When you use villagers, in Spill, normally we use villagers. We are paying probably about 50 to 100 ringgit per day, and they want cash money. So you have to use a forge. It's called cash money here, right? Then how are you going to control this cash money? Right? And then we are looking at information to the news media. That's how we cover the news media and give more order to demob. Right? So order to demob, the IC give you the order to demob, then it goes back to where's logistic? Logistic will get back all equipment. How many equipment they receive from this? Now how